Welcome to Testimony, a musician story. Heard at testimonystories.com and narrated by myself, Brown Theory, the music lover constantly seeking positive music. Let's get started.
Looking in the distance and dreaming of a world for us. When the moon's alive, we'll map out a journey for you and I. For you and I. In the night, I'm alone. Without you, I'm drifting out. When you take my hand, I'm so high up on Neverland.
Her remarkably rich vocals sound familiar to some because Marz has been featured on hit songs by artists like Andy Mineo, t.r.u.t.h, and Thizzle. Over the past couple of years, Marz has been making a name for herself in the Christian hip-hop community, despite the fact that she isn't a hip-hop artist. The hip-hop community has embraced her in the same manner that she has embraced her God-given talent to write profoundly and sing uniquely.
I'm so high up, I'll never land. I'll never land. I'll never land. I'll never land.
Martina Ferrer was born on August 4th, 1985 in Bronx, New York. She grew up in a two-parent Christian household with her two older brothers. Her mom was a strong spiritual force in their home and the worship team coordinator at their church. Her father's schedule as a paramedic for FDNY didn't allow for much church, but that didn't stop the rest of the family from attending. They stayed in the church. And unlike most kids, young Martina strangely enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. I didn't know anything other than that, and my parents were very strict, so I definitely didn't know anything other than that. And as far as church goes, like, I had a lot of friends that were my age, like, who were also ministry leader kids, I guess. So it was the crew. We always were there, every event. 4 hours. So it was just a way of life. I didn't know anything different, really.
Everyone in her family is musical. Not only was her mom the coordinator of the worship team, but she sang backup for several gospel artists, and her dad was in a doo-wop group. Additionally, her and her brothers grew up singing and playing instruments.
Getting lost in the flavors of entanglement.
Music in the household was like very vast. Like, it just was like gospel, like Ron Canoli, like all those times. And then, like, then we had obviously just regular music too, and then we had doo-wop music. So I grew up thinking that doo-wop was still the cool music, unfortunately. Like, music is like always on in the house. I think I didn't realize that we were kind of weird until my friend approached me in it, and it was like in the car, like, we'll sing along, like, like brothers or my mom or whatever, and like we all have different vocal ranges, and we'll just pick our harmony and just sing it like along with the radio. I had another friend coming in, and so they were talking amongst themselves, and she was like, no, it's normal, they always sing in the car. And I'm like, wait, that's not normal? Like, nobody sings in the car? Like, I'm like a 5-piece like choir in here.
Like what you're hearing so far? Check us out at testimonystories.com.
That's testimony stories with an S.com.
Where you can hear content for you and about you. Everyone has a testimony. Everyone has a testimony. And we want to hear yours. Tell us how God has transformed your life. Each month, we will select a person to highlight and interview. Find out more at testimonystories.com.
Testimony.
A musician's story. Testimony, where Christian hip-hop artists give you an exclusive look into their lives and their music. Take a journey into the minds of today's top Christian hip-hop artists as they open up and share about their past, their faith, and their music in ways you've never heard before. Put on your favorite pair of headphones or turn the stereo volume up and
A
listen.
musician's story.
Hi, I'm Marz and you're listening to Testimony, a musician's story.
I am weak and broken, flowing with the current, living this mundane life. I know there's more I can't deny. I can feel your touch, gentle divine rush. And I cannot ignore how my soul will longs for more.
After high school, Sheltered Marz studied music in North Carolina for 2 years. Once she graduated, she had a very interesting time period that included traveling up and down the East Coast with Christian hippies.
I had really cool experiences. Met a lot of ex-druggies, Christian hippies on the way, and then once you meet them, it's just like, yeah, let's go here, and I'm like, yeah, let's go. I think they were hippies, and then they stopped using drugs, and so, unfortunately, some of them substitute that euphoria feeling with worship or that high or that and so a lot of them run after signs and wonders, and that's why they're always traveling, because whatever's the next big thing, it was Pensacola revival or something crazy like that, but yeah, they just have the same exact mentality, everything's all good. It's they're permanently high, I swear. It's just in their veins, they can't get it out. So it was fun and it was an experience. I mean, especially me, I grew up in a Christian household, so it was that was my way of exploring the world and stuff like that. I definitely surrounded myself with, the Christian side of it, but I definitely explored outside of there too. It just happened,
Once Marz completed her traveling hippie experience, she moved back to New York and stayed with her brother Manny. Unbeknownst to Marz, she was about to meet her husband and producer Gabe, Manny's best friend, who coincidentally didn't even know Manny had a sister because she was out doing her traveling hippie thing.
At the time, he was recording and stuff like that, and then we were joking around. So then I was like, you should give me your number so we can make music together. It was really smooth. And so we exchanged numbers. And then by the time I went home from the studio or whatever, he already texted me. And then we were just texting the whole week. And we had our date. I guess our first date was later that week. Our first date, this is what he told me. And I think this is why we moved so fast. Our first date, he was like, listen, I'm not dating just to date and to have fun. He's like, I'm getting old. I'm tired of that. He's like, I'm looking for a wife. And he's like, if you're crazy, then I'm not going to deal with it and I'm just going to leave. So don't be crazy. Oh, this is different. Totally different from what I was used to, So I'm like, all right, let's try this out.
Testimony.
A musician's story. Testimony, where Christian hip-hop artists give you an exclusive look into their lives and their music. Take a journey into the minds of today's top Christian hip-hop artists as they open up and share about their past, their faith, and their music in ways you've never heard before. Put on your favorite pair of headphones or turn the stereo volume up and listen.
Musician's story.
Connect with Testimony, a musician story through social media. Find links to our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and more at testimonystories.com. A musician's story. Welcome back to Testimony, a musician's story, featuring Marz.
You step in the room, they won't be holding me down. All these demons in my head, come on, let's kill them with sound.
Marz and Gabe started dating that September, and the following September, they were married. 3 years later, they had their son, Lyden.
I wake up from this, and I cannot afford to forget. Feeling of your arms, they hold me. The power of your skin is lovely, and you provoke a man to bow down. I get on my knees and cry out. Everything I have is yours now.
Obviously, their personal chemistry was on point, but musically, they were not producing good music together.
It sucked at first. He's like a complete hip hop head, and I'm complete opposite, especially at that time. Like I was very like my acoustic guitar, playing on the side of the road, you know, like whatever. And what happened was, I believe he would give me these tracks, and they were like basically fully produced, and the synths and stuff like that. Melodies were already written, and then for me to be on top of it was like, it was just not connecting, right? And he gave me one track. He just showed me like randomly, and it was bare, and it was just 808s, maybe like a sample. And that was it, and some like atmospheric sound. And I was like, I think this works. Like it just stirred something in me, and then I actually wrote a song acoustically. That's what I was doing at the time, but I wrote an acoustic song, and it was my wedding vows to him. And so I put that over the track, and it just fit so perfect. And then he was like, that's it. And then, so I recorded that, and then he produced around me. So now, like, that's our, I guess, recipe. He'll give me something blank, and then I just go off in it, and then he'll revamp it around what I did.
The wedding vow song she was referring to is Take Me Away, off of her EP, Blur. Marz can be anywhere, doing anything, and write an amazing song. Streetlights was written while she was washing dishes.
I don't even understand, but I just was like, I don't know. It just happened. And then my husband came home from work and I'm like, I think I wrote a chorus to something. And he's like, yeah, let me hear you. So then I tell him, he was like, oh my God, that's insane. And he just started making drums right there. And then it ended up being like this insane track.
Marz has an incredible sound, but to most, her lyrics are queer and abstract. So it's a good thing she discussed the intent behind the title track Blur from her latest EP.
And he was like, blur, and he was like, what do you mean blur? And I'm like, because he's like an English major, so he makes sure I like use the proper tense. He's like, okay, I understand what you're saying, but what are you saying? Like, what are you trying to say right there? So yeah. And so blur, he was like, you mean blur? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I feel like it was like a metaphor of like blur in a positive way instead of like a negative. And it was like, how when we were together, our love when we were dating and the way it is now is completely different, and it's like as we move on, like it clears up, and at first it's like that fast-paced honeymoon stage, and it is a blur. You're like, I don't know what's happening. I kind of like it. It's exciting, and I want to keep doing it, and then you get married and you're like, oh man, what did I just do? Like, reality sets in the compromising two-way streets and, and then it takes the love in a whole nother way. Then you add a kid to that and it's like, what I always tell people, especially like single people, I'm like, marriage helps you realize how selfish you really are. And then when you have a kid, you realize you still are so selfish. Like, and it's like, oh, now it's like, oh, I can't just pick up and go whenever I want. I can't just basically just do whatever I want. I have to roll around his schedule, and give him a normal life, like I can't just go in the studio for hours, and our studio time, like we all work day jobs.
But for now it's a blur. Your love is a blur. But for now it's a blur. Your love is a blur. And this love is a blur.
Her in-house team consists of her family. Her husband, Gabe, a producer. Her brother, Manny, a producer who plays almost every instrument and mixes. And Gabe's cousin, Mike, who does vocal production. Prior to the release of her first project, Grave Clothes and Wedding Garments, Marz was a teacher at a Christian school.
So I took the apple from Eve. We thought we found what we need. And now silence holds us bound. I am lost in this world, in your secret garden. And you used to be my one and only darling.
I was like, I'll take care of my son, because half of my check was going, New York's expensive, so half of my check is like going to childcare and stuff like that. We're just struggling. And so he was like, it's not even worth it for you to go to work, And he's like, how about you just quit for a year, we do music, release it, whatever happens, if it flops, you just get a job and pretend it didn't happen, And like, that's exactly what we did. So we released Grave Clothes and Wedding Garments in April. And we got hit up like few weeks later by Alex Medina, and he was like, we had Scouts Honor do the cover for it, and he was looking at Scouts Honor, and Scouts Honor just liked it, and they did a video of them painting the cover with my song playing in the background, one of the songs on the track. And so Medina heard the song, and then he was like, I gotta find this girl. So like he's like looking at social media, blah blah. Long story short, he finds me, then he like shows everybody basically, you know, to me, and then next thing I know, I'm getting like all these calls for features, and it was just like a snowball like effect. It was just coming like, super quick, and then like 9 months in, I already did like 6 features for like the main like t.r.u.t.h, you know, artists out there, and then we were like, well, maybe it was a good thing I quit, you know.
Testimony.
Testimony, where Christian hip-hop artists give you an exclusive look into their lives and their music. Take a journey into the minds of today's top Christian hip-hop artists as they open up and share about their past, their faith, and their music in ways you've never heard before. Put on your favorite pair of headphones or turn the stereo volume up and
A
listen.
musician's story.
Everyone has a testimony, and we want to hear yours. Tell us how God has transformed your life. Each month, we will select a person to highlight and interview. Find out more at testimonystories.com.
Testimony.
Download the podcast of Testimony, a Musician Story on iTunes. Find out how at testimonystories.com.
A musician's story.
Hey, young world, I come in peace. Peace. Hard in the paint like Uncle Reese. All the homies is so authentic. Go hard till they go to sleep. Real Christians do real things. They ain't playing on both sides. True Christians in the building, but it's so hard to co-sign. Who am I to judge, right? Hang with Christians that blow minds. Bang with them my whole life, and they know that it's go time.
It is quite interesting how the hip-hop community is enamored with her sound. Marz can't even wrap her head around it.
It makes no sense. It's so surreal. I'm like, I don't understand why I'm here right now. And all right, so to be honest, I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm just gonna be really honest. Like, so I'm having like my Twitters. I have like I'm following more people than I have following me at the time. You know, like, and I have all these people hitting me up for features or just like trying to find out information about me. And my husband, now, of course, he knows because he's a hip hop head, whatever. And so he knows the CHH world too. And he's like, do you know who you're talking to? And I'm like, nope. Like, but I'm talking to them. And he's like, do you know what that is? It's the A&R for this. And that's that. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know who Alex Medina was. Sorry, Alex. No clue whatsoever. Alex Medina hit me up, and but it was so funny because my husband actually knew Alex. They started producing because Alex Medina's from New York, so they started producing around the same time, and then they went separate ways. And then so when he realized that Gabe was my husband, and he was like, like whatever, small world kind of business. But I didn't know who he was. I didn't know Joseph Prolazny, who was like the A&R for Each. I mean, some people I did know. Like, I knew Thistle and I knew JR. I actually really like JR. I'm a huge friend of JR. So that was cool. I was kind of fangirling about that one. But other people, I was like, I don't know who's talking to me.
Trying to describe her sound is difficult. Her husband elegantly describes her as an experimental alternative artist with a hip-hop inspired sound. But Marz simply calls it hippie hip-hop.
I've been told that I am an artist for the artists. I would say you definitely have to have like a creative flair to really appreciate it. If not, like and I see it, I'm talking from experience, but I see it like it just goes over people's heads, you know? And then it's like people who are like super, super fans of music and have like a vast knowledge of music, you know, they enjoy it. Or other artists that I like and that I I guess I would gear towards is like Florence and the Machine. And like, I love her. I'm sure you can hear influences in my stuff, and for her, she's like not really on the radio. You just know of her because because you search, because you're creative, but she's not on the radio. But then if you look who goes to her concerts, like Kanye sitting in the front row, so it's like, and I would say she's definitely an artist for the artist, So I feel like I'm somewhere in that. Some people, they're just like, oh, that's cool. I don't know what it is. Like, they're just like, I don't know what's happening. Like, and then I'm like, you know what? That's cool, Like, everybody has their lane, So there's definitely a lot with the lyrics, so nobody knows what I'm saying. I get a lot with Incredible. Incredible is a lot with that. But I get it with all my songs, to be honest with you. Is that about Jesus? Could be. Like, Incredible, that's the biggest one. They're like, oh, that's about Jesus and the bridegroom and the groom and his, like, whatever, table, banquet, whatever. And I'm like, if that's how I write about along the emotions, like that incredible feeling. Who is the person that gives you that incredible feeling, And it could be Jesus and that salvation and, like experiencing that for the first time, or it could be the first time you see your spouse and you just light up your room. It could be the first time you see your child, Like, it's that incredible feeling.
It's not your fault. You're just so incredible. Yeah. Bring me to new levels. Yeah. And I will follow you. It's not your fault. You're just so incredible.
Recently, Marz's song Blur, featuring Jay Gibbons, was selected for Mountain Dew's Green Label Sound Open Call, which is a search for the next big sound. Marz was one of 10 selected semi-finalists. If she wins, prizes would include a $50,000 grant to produce an album, along with other perks.
Have no eye.
But regardless if she wins or not, fans can expect to hear her debut full-length project this year, even if she has to release it independently.
I want to get signed. We all want to get signed. I mean, independent is really cool. Like, Social Club rocks the whole independent scene. Like, they're awesome with it. But for us, it's like, we don't really like the whole marketing aspects and the ploys. We're those artists that are like, I just want to write all day. Like, whatever. And it kind of kills the vibe, because then it's like, it taints us. Like, now when I'm writing a song, I'm like, this is going to go over well. Is this going to cross over well? Like, now I have the business mind as I'm writing, instead of just the free creativity, So it's like, I don't want to deal with that much longer. But I mean, if we have to stay independent, then we'll stay.
I'm free in day. I'm made of skin and bone. Though I may parade, I found my home. He cannot live our life all night. And I'm finally free.
Thank you for listening to Testimony, a musician's story. To hear this episode again, as well as past episodes, visit testimonystories.com. Until next time, I'm Brown, Theory, the music lover constantly seeking positive music.
There